Please welcome to the stage Mayor Fred Eisenberger.
Fred, I could see you and my fiance Ryan bonding over your Churchill roots.
Yeah, sure. Go Bulldogs.
Yeah, so I grew up in Hamilton. If you ask my parents, they would say I grew up in Dundas, but I am one of the young people who decided to stay and make my life here, and I'm proud to have done that. When I walk around the streets of Hamilton, I often get asked if Vic Copps was my grandpa, and yes, he was. And one of the frustrating things about that is that people like to dump on me and talk about how great the glory days were when he was mayor, and which is heartwarming and lovely to hear. But I find I'm hearing less of that now, because I think that we're slowly transitioning back into that phase, and people are excited about the city, and it's really great to hear that. And I know that he would be really proud seeing me up here interviewing you, and also to see the full circle that the city has come around to it. It seems like all of this patting on the back that we've been doing for the past few years is really well deserved, and we're starting to see some tangible improvements and upswing in the city.
Okay, I think we're done. You covered it. No, yeah, 100% right. So thank you for doing this. The Copps family, I mean, the Copps name in Hamilton resonates in so many ways. Sheila Copps, your mother and father, Brenda, renowned doctor in our community, and what you're going to do in the future. So let's, we talk a lot about what's happened in the past, but the future of our city is very much your kind of future, the future of our young professionals and folks that we're building the future city for. So before I start though, let me first acknowledge that this is the International Day of Mourning, and I think in our city and throughout the country, were it not for the workers, we would not get anything done. So we want to honor the killed and injured workers, and we honor that by respecting the Day of Mourning today. So thank you for that. City of Hamilton is doing, thank you, sure. Let's applaud the workers. There's a mini standing ovation from Maiden Johnson over there. Thank you, Maiden. The City of Hamilton is doing great, in my opinion. I think, in the opinion of many, the Conference Board of Canada just recently acknowledged that the City of Hamilton was the most diversified economy in the country. We have a great GDP. It's up 2.2% this year, so up 28.5 billion, which is almost bigger than some countries, in fact. We have good growth happening in our city, lots of development going on. $1 billion development applications in the last 5 or 6 years, each and every year. It's quite a significant, I think, change that we've seen over the last 20 years. And it's a testament to some great policies that were put in place by the City of Hamilton over the last 20 years to inspire new development and encourage. Great partnership with our provincial governments that are making some strategic investments in our community. I acknowledge Ted McMeekin is doing some great work not only in Hamilton but across the province as Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and we are just hitting the right marks. The investments are happening, and the image that you saw coming in here, the waterfront, and the headline in the paper yesterday. When's the last time we've seen two major projects featured in such a prominent way in the Hamilton Spectator and in the media? A real testament to the kind of initiatives and future investments that I think are going to make the City of Hamilton better and better each and every day. Plus, great events happening. We had the Junos here last year. Really talks about the great cultural capacity in the City of Hamilton. Music in Hamilton has been, for many years, kind of an underlying undercurrent. It was now very much out in the open in terms of the crawls that are happening on a weekly basis. 50 or 60 musical venues happening throughout the City of Hamilton on a day-to-day basis. Great restaurants are flourishing. Coffee apparently is the only drink in town because there's coffee shops just about everywhere. When you think that they can't fit another coffee shop in there, there's another coffee shop. And they're all Tim Hortons, which is not that I'm knocking Tim Hortons, but the baristas are out there and they're making all kinds of varieties and people are buying in. So, great vitality happening in the City of Hamilton. I'm very impressed. And last year, Pan Am Games, a great success for Hamilton. Lots of soccer events in a new stadium in partnership with our provincial, federal, and municipal governments. And a stadium that, even though we've got some challenges still, that I think is going to stand the test of time for many years. So the last one stood there for 80 or 90 years. This one will be there just as long. So good things are happening.
I thought the stadium was off the table.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into therapy
Okay,
on that one. But we'll just let that one slide.
Okay. Well, you did mention the waterfront, and I know for me, I've got a lot of skin in that game because I live down by the waterfront and would like to see my property values go on the up and up. But it's a hot topic, and I think a lot of people appreciate that it's finally getting the attention that it deserves. Not that it hadn't been getting attention, but we're actually seeing movement. And there's a lot of talk about it, but it's a bit hard to visualize exactly the picture that we would like to see down at the waterfront and what the plans look like. So if you can kind of paint a picture for us, what do you envision and what does the city envision?
Well, if we could bring the pictures down here and hold them up again. I mean, the vision is, I think it's about developing a community of residents and commercial activity that will highlight not only the neighborhood that's there, but give people the opportunity to come to the waterfront and enjoy it the way they are now. Right now, the parks, developed, at a time when there were landfill sites there, 20, 30 years ago. That transformation has actually taken place, and the key issue was that we wanted to create something that would attract people. We'd create some trails, kind of set the tone for the area. And that has now expanded into future development in terms of the residential development that we're envisioning in the pictures that are up in the foyer. I mean, it's a great visualization of what's possible. And there's debate going on between kind of the local neighborhood flavor and everyone's waterfront. I think that's to be expected. And we're trying to find the balance to make sure that we're not creating something that's just a great big monolith that's going to obliterate the waterfront that we all want to enjoy. So, you see in the image up there, we should actually bring it in here. You see in the image up there, 5 or 6 story buildings of residential mixed with commercial. The ongoing discussion will be, do we procure that as one giant site, or do we do it in bits and pieces? Those are issues that we still need to sort out. But the good news is we're at the development stage. We're closing in on actually putting shovels in the ground and creating a new residential enclave that's not only good for this particular area, but good for our overall tax base. $7.5 million additional tax dollars per year coming out of that on existing infrastructure is the way you want to grow your city. So this is just a brilliant opportunity to actually do that on lands that formerly we didn't own, that we now own through negotiations with the former harbor commissioners that we now have full control of, so we can actually set the tone on what kind of development we want to have happen there, and then encourage the private sector to step in and make it happen. So I think it's already happened in many respects in terms of the revitalization of that particular area of our city. The values have gone up there and everywhere, but more so there, in fact, because of those investments we made earlier. And as the picture rolls in here through the good work of Michael Marini, have a hard look, because it's, I think, a good representation of what the vision is. Environmental sensitivity built into that, a sense of community built into it. Obviously, when you build that kind of development with about 1,600 units built into it, you're going to need services, and that will also be part of the kind of commercial drive that becomes the waterfront. Now, I haven't picked out my unit yet, but I do want to live there. I do want to live there. And somebody told me I need to stop saying that, because one day a developer is going to develop there, and then they're going to say, well, how did you get that unit? I want to buy a unit in that location in my lifetime. In my lifetime.
It looks beautiful.
It does.
I know that a lot of people, as we push for this fantastic development, potentially for those who can afford to buy a lovely place down by the water, what's top of mind for many is what will happen to the people who have been living in this community for so long, who have made it their home. And there is a lot of social housing down at our waterfront. Does that get eliminated? How do we integrate that? And how do we make a mixed-use neighborhood that can benefit not just people who can afford the premium prices that will likely come down here, but every man?
Yeah, and I think the philosophy here, in my mind, and I think in the mind of many of our staff, is that inclusionary zoning is probably the path that we're going to take to include affordable housing in the mix of everything we do. I think the habit in the past has been that you create a building of affordable housing, or you create a complex of affordable housing. Not sure that's the right way to go. So some of the affordable housing that does exist in that area might transform, and I think there's obviously sensitivity to that, and we want to make sure that we do not displace people unnecessarily, and we provide housing for them. I mean, part of our challenge is affordable housing in the long run. We'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. So I think it has to introduce a housing mix, a different income or affordability strata in all of the projects that we're setting out to develop here. But I don't have a percentage in mind. I think that's something we have to figure out. But a 5–10% affordable housing stock in the mix of all of that, interspersed with that, I think makes sense.
And will that be a hard sell, though, for the developers that you're trying to bring down here?
Yeah, and I think, and that's why inclusionary zoning and density bonusing and those kinds of opportunities will help the development community kind of overcome that. So I think there's that kind of development is already happening in our city. We already have affordable housing intermixed into our neighborhoods, all throughout the city. So it's not an unusual concept. It's a little bit more intensified here because it's a confined space, but I think we have to find a way.
You have a big plan for tackling poverty in the city. A huge portion of that plan is focused solely on social housing. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you picture that looking if all pans out?
Yeah, so one of the things, I mean, we talk about economic development, and we want to congratulate everyone here that's participating in growing businesses and providing opportunity and employment for people. That's something we want to have happen. We have 387,000 people, gainfully employed in the city of Hamilton. That's the good news. We also have a lot of people that are not, and generally through no fault of their own. Just they don't have the same opportunities as the rest of us might have had. So I think the Affordable Housing and Poverty Initiative that we put forward, $50 million is the number that we talked about, is really an opportunity to have the city of Hamilton take some leadership on doing more to provide resources for kids to break the cycle of poverty. We've been talking about making Hamilton the best place to raise a child for the better part of a decade. We've had some traction, and there's been a lot of work done by a lot of great people, Joanne Priel and the Poverty Roundtable and Tom Cooper and Mark Chamberlain. Lots of initiatives have happened, but we haven't had the kind of traction I think that we would all like to see in terms of knocking that poverty number down and having more kids get through the education process and on to post-secondary for future prosperity. So for me, and I'm sure for most of the people in the room here, education was your path to prosperity. And if we can provide that for all of our kids, and many of them, 22,000 kids in our city are at or below the poverty line. It's not their choice. That's not where they want to be. And that disadvantage is not going to lead them to future prosperity. Education will. And so what can we put in place to actually help that happen? So our initiative is partly about affordable housing, some $20 million for affordable housing, and $30 million over 10 years for the poverty initiative. The funding comes out of the Future Fund, and I know that's a resource that we've tapped into often, but what we're deciding to do is to just prolong the repayment on the stadium borrowing that we did out of the Future Fund. So the Future Fund will be whole. We'll still bring it back to $100 million. The other piece is, through the result of the merger, the hydro merger with Brampton, Mississauga, I'm going to forget a community here, Brampton, Mississauga, Barrie, all of their utilities came together and created a significant merged distribution utility. It's all about creating efficiencies in these utilities. And the past model has been between Hamilton and St. Catharines that we created additional efficiencies. We've had $8 million dividend come to the city of Hamilton each and every year as a result of that. It's expected that we're going to get a $3 to $5 million additional dividend out of the next round of merge. And so I'm suggesting that we take $3 million of that, not money that we have to tax for in either scenario, and actually identify that for the poverty initiative, and then have a good group of people come together and give us a specific plan on how we can best put that into effect.
Can we afford that at this point when we're still kind of on an upward swing and not necessarily at that peak yet? You know, if we see all of this action happening, and if that plateaus earlier than we expect it to, are we going to be saying, you know, oh shucks, down the line 5 years, maybe we should have paid that stadium off and would have more in our pockets? Is directing this to people in need the best way to go?
In my mind, it is. I mean, I think we need to work on both streams. So we are aggressively working on economic development, and that isn't going to stop. And, you know, we have to keep our kind of pedal to the metal. We need to continue to pursue job-creating opportunities in the broader community. So that's one effort that moves in the right direction. We'll continue to do. I think our economic development team is aggressively working towards not only finding new opportunities, but streamlining the process and being that welcoming, open for business community. But at the same time, I think we cannot ignore the other part of the equation, the prosperity that needs to happen in part of the population that isn't achieving the same success that we're seeing on the other side. So we need to lift all of the boats, not just some of them.
Why is this so important to you?
There's a little bit of a lived experience for me. I'm a product of affordable housing. You know, all of my youth I lived in a geared income unit on Lang Street out in the East End in the McQueston neighborhood, for those that know the far East End. It was what we called the projects, which were, you know, a townhouse development there that, you know, we were poor. And as a result of an immigrant coming to this country, the challenges were significant, and there weren't enough help and resources there to help my family kind of lift themselves out of poverty, other than education and some government assistance, to be honest. So the only reason that my folks were able to afford a home was through the Home Ownership Made Easy program. I don't know if anybody remembers that program, but it was a land lease that provided an opportunity for a builder to build a house on the land lease. You leased the land for a long period of time, and then you got to own the house. And by virtue of that, they were able to participate in the Canadian dream of home ownership and uplift in value, and that certainly made a difference in terms of their future outcomes. That's the kind of outcome, I mean, the kind of prosperity outcome we want to have for all of our citizens. And you know, it's not about me, but it's providing all of those kids and all of those families out there that don't have the resources to get through the educational process and find that prosperity path, an opportunity to get there.
So until, you said for your entire childhood, so you were living in this assisted townhouse until what point?
Till I was 19, actually. So all of my high school years at Churchill. And, you know, I mean, I don't recall it in a bad way. It was just the circumstance we were in. And there was an opportunity for us to kind of work through it and come out of it. So our family, you know, by virtue of assistance and education, actually has done rather well. But others don't have that same opportunity and tend to then stay in the poverty cycle and can't seem to find their way out of it. So early child year outcomes has a determining factor in our community. High school years make a difference. I congratulate the Community Foundation, who are, through the generous donation of Heidi Balsillie, are investing in the middle years in terms of education, so that kids can have the right tools, the right food, the right housing, everything they need to actually get through that part of the education process. So there's some gaps there, and we can fill those gaps by making some investments, and hopefully we can partner with our good partners, the federal and provincial governments, to be able to do even more. So it's a need that we have to address. Ignoring it isn't going to help us. We're marginally making a difference. We need to do more.
Do you feel like you missed out on? I guess feeling like you were in that circumstance when you were young and had to claw your way out of it. You weren't necessarily given a platter with all of these options. You know, what do you think these kids need most? Because you've allocated some of the money to social housing, and then a lot of it is kind of an open book right now. And where are you hoping that that's going to target these kids in need to give them the same chances that you had?
Well, so I'm a little loath to refine that, because I'm not the expert in terms of how you target those kinds of programs and make a difference. But we are going to bring a group of people together to give us good advice on that. So there's been some great initiatives and great people that have been working on this. I think we can bring them together and have them define how do we best use those resources so that we're using them very specifically to help kids and families through the poverty cycle. Not to create more administration or a new desk for somebody in an office. That's not the point. But it's not I'm not the expert in this, so I know that there's need for more resources. I know that. I think that's an acknowledged issue from all levels of government. I just want our community to take some leadership on this issue. I think that leadership will then mean that others will pick up the ball and I think add to it. We have great partnerships with our community foundation and a whole range of organizations that are working in the field, and I think we can pull all of that together and really make a difference.
That's great.
Thanks.
So LRT is another big one. We've got to get through some of our big issues in the city. We had a big announcement that has received some very positive reaction, also a bit of hesitation from some. I know in our business community, people have skin in the game, like literally on those streets, and they want to know what's going to be done for their businesses to make sure that they can get through the time period where King Street is going to be an absolute construction zone. And people are worried, and I think fairly. What can you do to reassure them, and what are you going to do to make sure that those businesses have the least possible impact?
So LRT, for Hamilton is, let's just kind of go back to the basics. It is about moving more people, but essentially for Hamilton, it's about the economic uplift and renewal opportunities that come out of that. That's the big win for the city of Hamilton. I want to thank the Chamber for your Chamber and many others for your ongoing support. I think understanding that it is about city building, it is about creating renewal and about creating economic uplift and additional tax dollars, to be honest. So if we can inspire new development through LRT, which we know will happen, then that's a good thing for the city of Hamilton. How we get there is the challenge. So I've said often, getting the announcement, and we thank our provincial partners for funding all of the $1 billion initiative and owning it, and that's fantastic. Minister McMeekin was integral in making that happen, and the Premier, of course, came to Hamilton and made that announcement, and it's been long sought after, and I think the announcement was fantastic. So we can't argue with that. The journey to get there is going to be a trial. It is difficult. It is going to be change. I don't think we ought to sugarcoat that. It is going to be a significant traffic pattern change for the city of Hamilton. I've always believed, and I still do, that having a highway going through the middle of our city is not conducive to our downtown. It's detrimental to our downtown, in my view. And I know that, and there are alternatives to having that traffic pattern change. So I see no harm in making that change. I think change scares a lot of people, and I understand that. So communication and how we roll this out is going to be everything. We have one of our best communicators working on this, Paul Johnson, who's going to lead it on the city side, and Metrolink's Andrew Young on the Metrolink side. The mission is, from the city and our committee and our LRT committee, is communicate, communicate, communicate. Let's make sure that everyone understands the opportunity, the uplift value, and they are actually in the process of hiring people to go door to door along the corridor for every property owner to talk about the opportunity, the impacts, what's going to happen to their property, what can they expect, what could they actually realize and benefit from through this $1 billion investment. So, and that's not just going to happen once in a while, it's going to happen through the entire project. Are we going to be compensating people for disruption? I mean, that's not normally what we do. Roads are rebuilt every day, and the construction season's happening right now, so I'm sure that we're going to be cursing some of the routes we have to change because that road's under construction. It's going to happen throughout the entire city, and we all know we have to do it, but it's a pain because it disrupts our movement pattern. But there's only one way to do that, and to get in there, get it done, and accomplish things. So we just finished Concession Street a little while ago, and even though it was a bit of a torturous journey, everyone survived, as I understand it, and everybody's now very happy because it's now a nice new street. And I think LRT will be the same. So it is going to be a challenge getting done. But once it's done, I've related it to the big dig in Boston when, I was there when they were in the middle of it, and it was a mess. But the objective was to free up more space in their inner city and to take the blight of all the highways that were running over top of it away. When it was done, everybody is deliriously happy.
Just wait, it'll be worth it.
Yes,
yeah.
Hang in there. It's going to be a long journey, but we are building the future city. So we can say, well, today we don't want it, but our future city is going to have congestion. It is unavoidable. It is already in part here, certainly around the periphery of our city. Try to go to Toronto or Niagara now on the highway. You're going to sit in traffic for a while. We have to find ways of speeding that up. Public transit and LRT and the GO expansion that's happening throughout the province is the path to future mobility in our community. We can model it after any European city you want that we all love to visit and admire. Sooner or later, we're going to have that same kind of public transit capacity so that people can move around our province and our country effectively.
I know we're getting close to asking some questions of the audience, but there are just a few concerns, I think, about making sure that we get the workers to fill the development that we're expecting to come with this LRT and all of the movement in our city, and also making it easy for those new businesses to set up shop. And there are a few initiatives. If you can give us a bit of a report card on the Blue Ribbon Task Force and where that stands right now, and also on Open for Business. I know some progress has been made, and as the demand for these services goes up, it's difficult to keep pace, and you're trying.
Yeah, so there's two efforts happening. The skilled shortage issue is an issue that we're facing not only in Hamilton but across the province. And we set up the task force, the skills shortages, in partnership with Mohawk College, and I want to thank Ron McCurley for his leadership on that initiative, with ArcelorMittal, Maple Leaf Foods, Canada Bread, a number of other business organizations, and McMaster and Redeemer and others to have a look at where are we missing the training in terms of the skills that we're going to need today and into the future. And they're all identifying skills shortages that are missing. I mean, one of the stark ones, and we've had interviews with a number of different industries. One of the stark ones that jumped out at me was that we want to be a transportation hub in the city of Hamilton, and we're marching in that direction. But we're advised that there's going to be a shortage of some 200,000 truckers. So trucking is still the major way that we move goods throughout our community, and it's not a trade or a skill that people are particularly aspiring to.
Anyone looking for a job?
If you need a job, get into the trucking industry. It's going to be huge. Drivers. And that kind of information actually helps inform how we're going to target the kinds of work and employment opportunities that are going to be part of our future. Mm-hmm. So, and that's just one example of that. So we're seeing shortages in the electrical and carpentry fields for some of the industry and the advanced manufacturing that's going on in our community. So I think there's a real need to kind of drill down. I think the province of Ontario recognized the need as well, so they appointed Sean Conway to be their point person, former MPP, to be their point person on their skills shortage initiative, and we've been meeting and talking about how do we trade off information so that we're sharing the gaps and coming to understand how we can fill them with our educational partners. So it makes perfect sense that Mohawk College be part of that, and McMaster, because if there's shortages and we can target those specifically, then we can help people at least channel them into some areas that are going to be great future employment opportunities going forward. And then the last piece, Open for Business. We've been talking about this for years, and I know that some skepticism certainly in the development community, but we need to be the welcoming, open community for new business. And to do that, we need to have a predictable, streamlined process. And I want to thank Bill Jansen and Jason Thorne and their team. They have made and Council has made a very serious and genuine commitment to being as streamlined a process as we possibly can. We can't eliminate it. There are things that we need to do. There are requirements from the province of Ontario that we need to adhere to. But we ought to be able to provide people that are coming in for an application, a development application, at least a timeline, so that they understand what hurdles they're going to cross, and that we're going to take ownership of that application. We're not going to leave it with the developer and say, "Nah, this is yours to figure out." That we want to be the conduit to actually make whatever you're bringing to us happen. So it's a serious commitment. I think by the end of this term, we want to be as good as we can be. That'll take a little time because there's a bit of a cultural shift. You know, back in 2000, we were processing about 1,600 development applications every year. Today, we're developing 9,000.
Wow.
So and which is good news, which is great news.
Fred, I'm going to.
But let me finish.
Okay.
But we also needed to hire more people to be able to accommodate that, and I think we fixed that problem. And now it's a matter of making sure that we have streamlined processes that are identified in the open for business sheets that are on your table. We've made some changes already that kind of streamline the process. We're doing a number of application things simultaneously. So there's a number of things identified there that has streamlined the process already, and there's more to come.
Okay. On that note, on a positive note, we're going to open up the mics. We have some time for questions from the audience if anyone would like to step up to the plate. I see a bit of movement. So we'll start with the man in the blue suit.
Morning.
I think it's on. Just
Hello?
There you go.
There you go.
Morning, Fred.
Morning.
Mayor, Mark Elliker, Hamilton Brantford Building Trades. You were at our AGM 2016. Pleasure, and it's welcome to be here with the Chamber. Wanted to ask you, Fred, you spoke about the skilled trade shortage in Hamilton. Being with the Hamilton Brantford Building Trades, we would like to reach out to the City of Hamilton, and with the Blue Ribbon Task Force, we would like to come and be part of that discussion. We talked earlier about large amounts of unemployment. We believe we've got a training infrastructure, and there's definitely ways that we can assist and work with the City of Hamilton, Mohawk College, all the partners, and try to get the right people in the community. Thank you.
You got an offer.
Thank you. That's great. Certainly, I think we've talked about this before, and I thought we'd pass that along to get you included in that, but as you should be. But it's going to take kind of a multifaceted effort to address this. So it's not, no one owns it singularly. I think that's one of the hallmarks of Hamilton, is that we are collaborating in more and better ways than we ever have before. So we need all of the partners at the table to address this issue. So I'll be sure to remind them again that of your offer to sit at the table and help us through this process. Thank you for that.
Thank you. If we don't have any more questions, I would like to thank you for your time. It was great to get some insight into where we stand. Oh,
there's more questions. Yeah.
Can you speak
We
up?
got another half an hour to go, don't we? Is that?
I'll repeat it. I can hear it.
My name is Mary Iggsy Oskavich, Iggsy for short, and I'm CEO of Denvers. I agree with the principle of LRT and the long-term goal, but we've got to live through the short term. And the Denvers King Street store, as well as a lot of businesses between Wellington and James, somehow have got to survive over the next 5 years. And it's fine to talk in generalities, but what are the specifics, and provide us with some of those specifics.
How am I going to get my smoked meat? Please answer.
Well, so certainly we don't want anybody to stop going to Denninger's. So it's an institution in the city of Hamilton that needs to continue. So I can't map out for you right now how the access is going to happen during construction, and it's likely that this is going to be a phased approach. We're not going to be tearing up, in my view, the entirety of King Street all the way to McMaster from the traffic circle all in one fell swoop. So it's going to be a staged process, I imagine. And there needs to be, everything humanly possible done to make sure that all the businesses that are there are going to get the kind of access they're going to need. There's already an initiative happening right now in terms of alleyway improvements that actually provides rear-end access because people want it now. So there's going to be all kinds of opportunities to kind of work through that process. I would say the commitment is that we find every possible way to ensure that all the businesses can survive, find a way of surviving. We do that, and we did that on Concession Street, and it was difficult, but it was done, and every phase of the way, no one was ever completely cut off from access to businesses or retail opportunities. So we have to find a way. I can't tell you exactly how that's going to happen in that particular section, but there has to be a way, and there will be a way.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, back in the back.
Hi, my name is Lori James. I have brought my business from Toronto to Hamilton a number of years ago, about 16 now. I have a company called Band Designs. Band Designs manufactures technical outerwear. I have employed 1,500 people in the course of my life, and my clients have included Bear Bedding, which is the third largest company in the world in Japan, and Walt Disney World. When you say that Hamilton is open for business, Mayor Eisenberger, I challenge you. I bought the building at 520 James Street North. I have had 47 bylaw complaints. I have spent a better part of my life in the last 3 years in court, sitting, challenging these bylaw complaints. They want the thrift shop, New Horizons thrift shop, out of my building. The thrift shop has been in the building for a better part of 30 years. I have spent many hours trying to communicate with this new regime, this old regime, this whatever regime you've got happening in the city of Hamilton, to find out what I'm doing wrong. Okay? What my 24,000 square foot building has done wrong to allow this kind of thing to happen. I have not been able to properly set up my business and run it as I would like to do.
I'm going to ask that you just get to your question. I'm sorry, we're just short on time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I challenge you to tell me how Hamilton is really open for business. I challenge you. I sat in here and I listened to many other people that are being challenged by these bylaw complaints. And I beseech upon you to maybe send some of your counselors to court to see what actually is going on and what kind of fines these developers are getting, what kind of fines are getting.
So
just for merely trying to exist in Hamilton.
I can't give you a specific answer on your location, but my commitment earlier was, and this is a commitment for the City of Hamilton, that we were going to do everything humanly possible to be open for business. However, that doesn't absolve all the problems that are out there. So there are going to be challenges throughout that process. So sounds like you're in the middle of a challenge yourself. I don't know all the specifics. I'd be happy to hear about them afterwards, and then I can take it up with our staff. This is the first I've heard of this challenge that you're talking about. So if you want to get to me afterwards, I'm happy to listen, happy to come to understand what the challenges are, and then we'll see where we can go from there. But that doesn't dismiss the notion that my commitment is, and our staff's commitment is, and our city manager's commitment is, that we do everything humanly possible to be open for the kind of businesses that are going to grow our community, and that we have a process, a streamlined process that will give predictability and a sense of timelines so that people understand the kind of hurdles they're going to be facing.
We'll take one last question over here. We're going to take just one last question over here, and then we'll wrap things up.
With all due respect to the previous speaker, this is Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Hamilton, Burlington. Young kids in Hamilton. Natalie would just like to challenge Mayor Fred.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for all your wonderful commentary. And I do have an additional challenge. We're going to be hosting an event in September, and we'd like to invite you and challenge you to join us to rappel down to rappel down the former Stelco Tower, 100 King Street West. So I'm going to send you an email later on, and we can chat some more. But that's my challenge to you.
You're nimble.
Mayor
You can do
Eisenberger.
it.
I'll get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I want to congratulate you for all of our social media users out there. You've done a fantastic job this morning. And the HCC Breakfast 2016 hashtag is actually trending nationally on Twitter right now. which is fantastic. Yeah, we also have a staff member collecting business cards, so if you do want to gather them among your tables, and Fred, if you want to just have the final word.
I would. And so let me thank Elise Copps. I think she did a terrific job. And I just want to wrap up by saying, you know what, in Hamilton right now, we are seeing the kind of collaboration and kind of unified vision through all of our major institutions and on council. And I want to congratulate council. I've said this before. This is I've served with a few. This is the best council I've worked with in my time in municipal government. They're folks that are committed to doing good things and not committed to some acrimony that has been some of the challenges of the past. I want to congratulate and thank them all, the ones that are here, but all of council. They're doing a terrific job in moving forward together. And the collaboration, I have never seen the alignment between our federal and provincial municipal governments that we see in Hamilton today. The kinds of investments that I think are necessary for our economy and for our infrastructure that are starting to happen in partnership with the province and the federal government. The alignment is absolutely spectacular. I mean, if I were to dream a scenario where that we could take advantage of a brilliant opportunity to improve our community, this is it. The alignment is just spectacular. So I just want to encourage everyone to stay on the positive side. The developments that we're talking about are important. There are city building developments, but they ought not, if we let them slide, we are going to miss those opportunities. So thank you all so very much for being here, and let's keep that collaboration going. It's absolutely spectacular.